guys, it's Paul Myers, licensed professional counselor, owner and lead therapist of Intentional Counseling. Today we're going to cover a relationship counseling concept that is from the Gottman Institute. So Gottman is a relationship counseling pioneer, he's an expert in the field, and I really like this concept that he has. I use it quite frequently in marriage counseling, but it's just useful in any romantic relationship. So the concept is stonewalling. So stonewalling fundamentally is pushing your spouse away, pushing your partner away. And you're pulling back and creating that wall and that distance intentionally on purpose. A lot of the times this is a natural response to cope with emotion, but actually is at the expense of the relationship. Really helpful for the individual to cope with their feelings, but detrimental to the relationship and the other person who's left hanging. So let's cover some examples of what stonewalling is and why it's destructive, and then we'll talk about the positive resolution to resolve your conflict in a healthier way rather than stonewalling your partner. Okay? So over here we've got stonewalling, we've got the negative side. So stonewalling is the cold shoulder. You know, you're just kind of pushing your spouse out, you're shutting your spouse out, you're walling them off. Okay? This is a silent treatment, so you could just, intentionally not talk or just not participate. Another example would be just openly avoiding the discussion on purpose. We're just not going to talk about it with you. Not going to have the discussion. Another example would be like isolating and withdrawing and not really even addressing the topic at all. And you're just being alone and trying to stay alone on purpose. Okay. This another example would be openly dismissing your spouse. So let's say they're talking to you and you just blow them off and dismiss them and this conversation's over, right? And some people actually walk out in an argument. So there's a middle of the discussion, you just leave, you walk out, okay? Another example would just be not responding at all intentionally. You just don't respond. You just sit there in the discussion and not participate, okay? So all of this is very much similar, but really all of it constitutes a stonewalling. There's many ways to do it. You could turn your phone off, you could walk out of the house, you could leave you could do this a lot, okay? And really what this is, people in the middle of an argument, they get emotional, they're struggling, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to get some space to cope with their emotion. So most of the time, people are stonewalling not to try to hurt their spouse, but to try to cope with themselves and manage their own feelings, or maybe they're just trying not to get mad and blow up at their spouse, so they're stepping away thinking that they're doing the right thing. And sometimes the intentions are good, right? But it's always at the expense of the relationship, because what it does is it, one, doesn't resolve the discussion, two, it leaves your spouse hanging with this unresolved anxiety, like, oh, okay, I guess we'll just not fix it, right? It makes your spouse feel disrespected and blown off, and so it also doesn't build safety and trust in the relationship. It kind of waters that down as well. Okay, so there's the damage it does. Even if the intentions are good, that's the effect. That's the result. Okay, so how do we deal with this? What's the appropriate responses over here? The healthy response. So this is very positive. It's the resolution to this issue. We have one thing would be establishing a safe word. So the safe word basically means you have a mutual agreement that if I use a safe word, it means I'm not trying to blow you off. I just need a second to kind of calm down and deal with myself. It's actually because I value the relationship that I'm taking some space to cope. So please don't feel blown off. We will have the discussion. We will talk about it, after I'm done kind of dealing with myself, so I'm more rational, okay? Problem is, when you're upset, nobody is rational enough to actually say that. So that's why you have a safe word, because the safe word just implies all of those things. That's something you can mutually establish with your spouse, and it's a really good conflict resolution skill if you need it. You can both use it, okay? The other thing is taking that strategic break on purpose. It's like a intentional mutual agreement, like, hey, I'm just gonna take an hour or two, preferably an hour. If you can keep it an hour or less, that's ideal, but sometimes you don't have an hour, that's okay. Just make sure you take a strategic break. You mutually agreed on that. You're like, hey, I'm going to take some time. You know, I'm not blowing you off. You know, that this is not a bad thing. This is for the relationship, okay? Next thing is that time out is actually a time to cope and a time to process, not a time to avoid, right? I'm not going to take a time out and go watch a movie and not think. I'm not going to escape. I'm taking the time out to cope, okay? So during that hour of a break, process your own emotions. During that time, you can reflect, you can self-soothe, you can get your anxieties and frustrations down. Get yourself rational again, reset your perspective, okay? That's supposed to be a use of that time to get yourself together, okay? The other thing is thinking before you're reacting. You know what I've noticed? Most people are very rational, you know, if you just give them 5 minutes or 15 minutes to calm down, and they take us one step back from a conflict, if they just take a step back for 5 minutes, and they just take a high level view, they're totally rational. They're back to normal, right? Some people need longer than others, but most people come to their senses. So if you just take some time before you react, really think things through, you'll really spare your relationship a lot of damage. Most of the high conflict episodes are just people's emotion. They're just dumping out. They're just being irrational. They just say a bunch of stuff they don't even mean, or they don't even stand by, and then an hour later they regret it, and then now they can't take it back. So a lot of the time, think before you react. I'd rather you say nothing when you're really upset and ask for some space, okay? Another thing, you have to re-engage. This is one of the key components to stopping the stonewalling. You can have your time, you know, just re-engage, guaranteed. And be dramatic about this. Schedule it, you know. If you have an hour, okay, at 6 o'clock, we'll talk at 7, right? Schedule it. If it's 3 in the morning and you don't have an hour, cool, let's schedule it to talk tomorrow. Put it on the calendar. Make it a priority. That's how you make something important, is you put it on the calendar. It shows that you care, okay? It also makes it to where the other person doesn't feel like they're left hanging, okay? They're not worried that you're not going to resolve the issue. They're not anxious that nothing's ever going to get fixed. They don't have to sit with that. They have that reassurance that it will get addressed and discussed, okay? So that's the last thing is we are going to finish and readdress that topic. The same topic, we're going to finish the discussion by readdressing it, except this time we're more rational. Alright guys? Hey, hopefully that helps you. If you relate, leave a comment below. Subscribe if you haven't. That will help us grow, and the more people we help, the better. And if you have not done counseling, definitely, we really strongly recommend you go to intentional-counseling.com. That's our website. Research everybody, pick a therapist for yourself, and we can help you either telehealth or in person. Alright guys, thanks for watching, take care!